Hi, and welcome to the show, everybody. I'm your host, Jack Canfield, and with me today is Lynn Patner. Lynn, as you'll see in a moment, is an energetic author, a transformational life coach, and a group facilitator. She was a social worker for children and family services, and she's led spiritual workshops and classes in the San Francisco Bay Area for the last 37 years. She's also a certified hypnotherapist and a Reiki practitioner. Welcome to the show, Lynn.
Hi.
Glad to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
So, my pleasure.
Well, very good. You say that your mission in life is to assist others on the journey of awakening to their unlimited potentials and to their uniqueness of their own being. Now, that's a great mission. What put you on this mission?
Well, about 37 years ago, I was playing my character role. I'd followed everything I was supposed to do. I went to the University of Illinois. I married. I had 2 children. I lived in the suburbs. And I was basically into my role of Donna Reed, which was what basically was a sitcom in the 1950s and 60s. Wore pearls, lipstick, dressed up to take the kids to school, playing her role to the hilt. When all of a sudden I was invited by a friend of mine who was a psychiatric nurse to go see this doctor who could send energy from his aura to my aura. I knew nothing about auras. I knew nothing about any of this. And I went because it sounded better than staying home and washing clothes or whatever I would do that night. And that started my journey because as I was watching this doctor work, I became mesmerized by what he was doing. It was like leading an orchestra. But something in my head said, shut up, Lynn, and shut your eyes. I looked around the room. There was no one talking to me except whatever. And I shut my eyes. And with that, this incredible electric energy came running up me. And that turned me on to looking at energy. And so I followed that. I didn't know at the time, Jack, that I was being led on this journey. I had no concept that I had guides with me that were jumping off the couch, drinking champagne and saying, let's get her working, man. Let's get her to work. So I have spent all this time healing myself so that I could assist other people in their awakening process through laughter, through everything, falling in a rabbit hole, getting out, knowing the things I know I desperately want to share because they're so remarkable.
Well, you really, we could call your book Meetings with Remarkable People. I mean, the whole first section of your book is about all the different I'm going to call them wake-up calls or awakening experiences you had yourself, like the one you just mentioned. Could you share one more of those? I mean, to me, that was some of the most fascinating things I've ever read.
Oh, well, thank you. I think one of the neatest things that ever happened to me was basically from work. And then I did a focusing class. And, as a social worker, I have to listen to everybody. But in this focusing class, what happened was my ears talked and they said they didn't want to listen anymore, which really scared me because if they didn't want to listen anymore, I was out of a job. And what they said is drop to your heart and hear from your heart. So that was one of the most outstanding things. But then when I got to speak to a 6-month-old baby and find out, I didn't want this child to return to her home. She was born to 2 drug-addicted parents. They were basically a mess. And she was in a home, a medically fragile infant home. And I really didn't want to return her. That was not on my agenda. And so I was led into a meditation where I asked her what she wanted, thinking she was going to say, yeah, never send me back to that home again. Instead, she said, which blew my socks off, I'm here for a reason. I'm here to show my parents how to love. And I went back and told the father. Now, the father could have called my supervisor and said, you've got a lunatic social worker working here who just talked to my baby daughter who's 6 months old. But eventually the child went back. I have met such incredible people on this journey, and I have such incredible stories. Changing into a rock to learn how to be the silent witness, meeting my guide who had been waiting for me, having my father come and assist me in helping me with the death of my aunt and uncle, showing up. And he had been gone since 1956. So this has been I can't even talk about all the stories I've had because they're all so meaningful and so much fun when you learn them. And they comprise a lifetime of learning that we are so important, that we are here as unique human beings, and that we're here to bring to the world our unique gifts and stop playing small.
Well, I was about to ask you, what would you say is the most important thing you discovered on this journey of yours? Maybe you just said it, but I'm going to ask it anyway. If there's something else you would say to that question.
I would say that what I discovered really is something very, very big. And the fact that as we're little, we get wounded. We may get wounded from our parents. We may get wounded from going to nursery school like I did, but we get wounded. And so in that woundology that we carry with us, it becomes unconscious. And we go through life thinking that we're manifesting this and doing that, but behind it is this insidious wound. Like if I'm not enough. So how I learned that wound was when I was in graduate school. I had to write a paper about my first group experience. My first group experience was a 3-year-old little girl going to Hyde Park School for Little Children in Chicago, Illinois. I had been raised by my parents. I lived in a building with all adults. They loved me to pieces. I could do anything I wanted. I had free reign. And I hit this school at 3, and I walk in and I see before me a dollhouse with life-size everything, dolls, carriages, refrigerators, freezers, whatever they had there. And I'm overjoyed. And I went in and took over the dollhouse, and no one would play with me. And so what I learned is something's wrong with me. I'm not enough. And nobody interfered with telling me that. So all the way through my life, everything I've done, that thought, that wound has been calling to me instances that can prove that I'm not enough. And you have to become conscious of your wounds in order to let them hear them and let them go. So that's really the most important thing I've discovered on this journey are the wounds.
When I was in graduate school at the University of Massachusetts, I was studying psychological education. How do you educate people about psychological issues while they're in school? We used to say if it's done on time, it's called education. If it's done late, it's called therapy. But it's the same work. And what we discovered was that everybody has that core wound that says, I'm not enough. And then you can sometimes put a word in front of it. I'm not blank enough. I'm not pretty enough, athletic enough, smart enough, whatever it might be. And I had that wound, obviously, as we all do. And I spent a good part of my life trying to be more than enough to be enough. And so, type A person, overworking and all that good stuff, perfectionistic, and always bragging about my accomplishments and who I knew. And then one day I got called on it in the workshop and then worked on it, and I was able to let that go. Yeah. But it's so universal. And I don't think most people have a clue that they're walking around with that. It's unfortunate. Well, I love the fact that your book is bringing that up for people and really helping them come to terms with that, to confront it and to work with it. So thank you for that contribution. So, it's funny, Hyde Park, I actually I went to the University of Chicago for a number of years in the Hyde Park area in Chicago. So you can visualize where you were and what your winters were like as a child. So I always like to ask this question. If there was a question you wished I'd ask you that I haven't asked, or if there's one more thing you wanted to share, what would that be with people?
What I want to leave people with is the same thing that you want to leave people with. It is our mission in our lifetime to assist people on their journey toward perfecting who they are and becoming energetically more vibrant and more loving and more compassionate to change this world. Each person that you work with or understands where you're coming from, you're doing the work, I'm doing the work, Deepak's doing the work, everybody that is signed up for your group is doing the work to raise consciousness to a level of assisting people in learning that they really are unique people, that they've come to this world to bring a gift. And the most important thing you can do is bring love. And if you come from love and you come from knowing, I have a knowing, it's a deep knowing that I'm being supported all the time. So even when I had anxiety, I said, okay, God, I can't handle this. You got to do it. And I'm not religious. I believe that God is this vibrant, loving bubble of energy that is so powerful that feeling it brings you to tears, which I have felt. So that would be the only thing I would leave with, is that I applaud all the people who are doing this work on the planet now, because God only knows we need it. And it's really an honor to be able to sit with you and chat. I really enjoy that. I love to share stories with you.
Yeah, I know, it's true. Well, I have many friends that are Native Americans, and they say sitting around talking story is the way they frame it, is like it reinforces our humanity and our common shared experience and our uniqueness. And I just want to end with this. You mentioned about, you said, I know this bubble of energy. I know it exists. I've experienced it. And I remember someone once asked a person, they said, do you believe in God? He says, no, I don't believe in God. He said, I know God. Belief is some kind of faith. He said, I know it. It's experience. And then you obviously do too. I always tell people, I know who people are by their eyes and by their smile. And you can see if they have bright eyes. I used to call them meditator eyes. They're eyes of love, eyes of God, eyes of channeling, eyes of the essence of who they are shining through. And you have that in spades, my dear. So if people want to get in touch with you to find out more about your book, to find out about the work you do, where do they go? How do they get in touch with you?
Well, I have a website, and it's lynnpatner.com. And I give 20 minutes of one-on-one with anybody who would like it, to assist them in their growth of wherever they're at. So they can contact me there.
Wow, that's beautiful. Good for you. What a nice contribution. All right, you heard it there. Go to lynnpatner.com, get her book. I promise you, it's an amazingly wonderful read. You're going to enjoy it. It will uplift you. It'll expand your consciousness, and it will bring joy to you. And if you're not already on a path of awakening and self-discovery, it'll get you on that path. It's like step on the escalator, folks. It's all going up. All right. Thanks for joining us today, folks. And just know that everything we talked about today, you are enough. You just have to own it, become it, let go of the wounds. There's work to be done, but you can do it. And you've got a lot of guides by your side, both in the ethereal realm and people like Lynn and myself who can assist you in doing that. So tune in next week. I'll have another amazing person on to share with you how to navigate this thing we call life. Until then, have a great week.